Good evening, everyone. We are super thrilled that you're joining us tonight. My name is Jaylee Ransom, and I'm a senior majoring in communication. I am also currently the assistant to the internship coordinator, and I'm part of a few on-campus organizations. I will be the student facilitating this event tonight. And this is the Beyond Social Unleash Your Digital Superpowers program. And we are well into our second annual Imagine 2022 program, sponsored by the President's Office, Career Services, and the Oswego Alumni Association. This is also the third week in an amazing program series focused on giving current students in the class of 2021 the chance to explore career paths, find job and internship opportunities, network with alumni, and more. Our website will be posted in the chat, so feel free to check that out. And also, just by attending tonight's event, you'll be eligible for a prize drawing at the end of the week. If you do complete our survey at the end of the session, you'll be entered twice. And before we begin, there is one housekeeping item. We ask that you keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking, and that you place any questions or comments into the chat, since we'll be closely monitoring it. And now I would like to introduce our panel of alumni. Up first, we have Caitlin Jackson, who is currently a senior customer service manager for LinkedIn Learning. And before coming to LinkedIn, Caitlin was a customer success manager at a K-12 EdTech platform, and a former K-12 teacher and leader. She is passionate about all things learning and is currently working with higher education partners to identify skill gaps and learning development needs across faculty, staff, and students to support skill development and overall learning. Up next, we have Rufaro Mutombo, who was born in Zimbabwe and was raised in New York City. And with almost 10 years of being a professional, Rufaro is a 2012 SUNY Oswego alumnus. He currently sits on the board of directors for the Oswego Alumni Association and previously served as a brand ambassador for the iconic radio stations Hot 97 and 107.5 FM WBLS. And he's also currently the Senior Digital Content Manager for Safe Horizon. He received his BA in Broadcasting and Mass Communication or Mass Media, and is always willing to give advice and share his story. Thank you. And our last panelist is Samantha Longton, and with a passion for social media, Samantha worked with the Oswego State Athletics Department on marketing campaigns and social media messaging as a student at Oswego. She graduated from SUNY Oswego in 2018 and accepted an internship with the Disney College program. And while living in Florida, Samantha started her own small business as a freelance social media influencer, working with large travel businesses in Florida like Marriott, Margaritaville, Disney Cove, and more. Samantha also started with the Disney Parks team in 2021 as a content coordinator, where she has worked on marketing for the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World, along with other projects in the park. And with that, that is our three panelists tonight. And we'd also want to give a warm welcome to all of our guests. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll begin with some questions. So up first, I actually have Rufaro. I ask that you please restate your name, your current position, and the most energizing part of the work and or activities that you are involved with.
Thank you. And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. It's Jaylee.
It's Jaylee.
Jaylee. Okay, Jaylee. Thank you, Jaylee.
Yeah, of course.
Once again, my name is Rufaro Mutombo. I am the Senior Digital Content Manager for Safe Horizon. It is a victims-based organization, largest in the nation. And you said the third part was the most exciting part of my job. It would have to be, sitting in meetings with survivors of crime and abuse and hearing their stories being shared to me, because I recognize in my space, men, let alone Black men, are usually not in those spaces. So to have the honor and privilege and for people to feel safe with me in that space feels absolutely the best, because I recognize people who look like me are usually often the perpetrators, but I'm actually the nice, safe guy. Do I pass the baton, or are you gonna pass the baton?
Oh, I was gonna actually ask a follow-up question. That was honestly a great response. Thank you. I do have a follow-up question. How would you say the last, I guess 2 years with the pandemic and everything, and now there's a big shift with changing narratives and mental health. How do you think that has changed your work a little bit?
Oh, a lot. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody here, that's changed everything. Like, we used to do this in person. Now we're doing this literally. I'm at home in my crib, and like now we're doing this here. So, I mean, but more so for me, I mean, it hasn't really changed that much because a lot of my work is done online, and I don't necessarily need to be in person. But I do miss the idea of just going to work, um, because when I'm home, there's no like, okay, I've come home because I'm already home doing the work. So I, you know, work has intensified, but I actually do miss the idea of coming home once the laptop is closed.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My next question is for Samantha. It is always interesting to hear how paths seldom go in a straight line. So what are, or what were, or what are your thoughts and goals or plans for your career while you were in college? How did that eventually come to your current path?
Of course. So when I went to Oswego, I worked in the marketing department. I did a lot of work with Oswego State Athletics, and I loved posting on social media on hockey night in Oswego. We all loved it. It was a great time. We had the best time. And I really thought for a while that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in collegiate athletics or professional athletics, doing social media content. And I just applied for the Disney College program just out of curiosity, just to see if it would be something that would fit. And I was like this close to not taking it just because I wanted to continue my career in sports, and stuff that I had gotten, that I learned in Oswego as well. I ended up taking that jump and moving down here. I worked in the parks for a little bit of time, and then I worked in the call center. So not the most glamorous jobs in the world, but really fun ones where you get to have tons of experience with guests and other cast members. And I had that passion for social media that I kind of let go for a little bit when I was here, for my first couple of years, and it was a little tricky. Kind of jumping back into it, and I wasn't sure kind of where to start, and I figured might as well just kind of start myself. And I started during COVID. I would go out and make videos on coffee shops and small restaurants and small businesses, and it kind of started to grow from there. So my path kind of shifted from wanting to work in sports, and then wanting to work for Disney, and then wanting to get that path back on social media. So I kind of threw it back on there myself, and did a lot of social media marketing in Orlando, with my own small business. At one point, I think I was working with maybe 4 different marketing agencies, 4 different leisure companies and stuff like that, just for freelance and just for fun, on the side of my job with Disney. I was sitting at my desk about a year ago, and someone sent me a job application, that was an internal posting for Disney for a social media content coordinator. And they made TikToks and videos for our social content. And I thought, nah, I don't know if they'll take me, but I'm going to apply anyway and see what happens. And they end up offering me the position, and it kind of changed my life, and my path in my career when it comes to social media marketing. If I would have told myself a year ago when I was answering phone calls every day that I would be, helping and being on a team that runs an account that has over 4 million followers, I wouldn't believe myself. But yeah, your path can shift a lot, and that's totally okay, because that's, what it is with life. And it's been quite the path and quite the journey, but I honestly wouldn't want it any other way, to be honest.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's great to hear as a senior, because it's a big thing being like, what's going to happen, but just knowing, and I know there's been great help with other alumni and Oswego associates just saying that, things will change, but you'll find your path and what you want to do. So thank you.
Of course.
Next question is for Caitlin. Of all the social media platforms out there, where does LinkedIn rank in terms of importance for career development, and moving forward professionally, and why?
Hi, everybody. Samantha, I love that story too, because I started off as a teacher, and now at LinkedIn. So my path is definitely not linear. And if you asked me when I graduated for my master's, what I would be doing 10 years down the road, I would not say here, but I couldn't imagine a better path. So definitely excited to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn today. It's the largest social platform for professionals. So there's lots of different social media spans a lot of different platforms, and LinkedIn is definitely the largest social platform for professionals. We have a great way of getting all of this information from what we call an economic graph, because we have data from profiles and job postings and shares and content that's created on LinkedIn to really give us an idea about what the workforce is and where it's going. And we have some really wonderful insights on what the status of what's happening today and what's going to happen in 5 years. We have over 58 million companies on LinkedIn. We have 120,000 colleges and universities. So it's a place to go and connect. And I want you to kind of think through, LinkedIn is often thought of, especially when I went to college and made my LinkedIn profile, it's not just a place to go get a job. I want you to kind of expand your mindset into thinking it's a place where you can go and share ideas, learn about different career paths, connect with the leaders in industries, and just be a place for learning. I just every day when I'm on LinkedIn, I read articles and think of different perspectives, and it's a great way to learn a little bit about my own career paths and other things outside of my career. So I definitely think going in and diving into LinkedIn to create that profile and to start to think through ways to build your professional brand within LinkedIn can definitely help you not only with getting a job, but really just expanding your networking and really making sure that you're setting yourself up so that you can twist and turn wherever your career may take you.
Awesome. Thank you. I look forward, because I know you do have a Rocking Your LinkedIn session tomorrow, which we'll talk about again. I look forward to that. I can definitely tell I'm in my adulting phase when I check LinkedIn to see all the updates, but thank you. Next question we'll circle back is Rufaro. This is also another LinkedIn question, and it is: many students have started a LinkedIn profile, but struggled to make it work for them. How do they take the next step to enhance their brand and develop meaningful relationships?
It's a really good question. I might have to defer to Caitlin on that too, because let me know if I'm wrong in it. Because I remember, just like all social media, I was around when LinkedIn was before it became a tool to share a lot of content. It was really just a place where professionals just connect with professionals, just like how Facebook was a place where you connect with colleges, and before stories and even before TikTok. But I think that, to make sure I'm answering your question correctly, yeah, if you're just engaging it just like how you would engage any other platform, to its highest ability, you just cater to your audience and to the platform. LinkedIn is an area where folks connect professionally. As a DJ, like, I know that, like, folks think that, like, DJs don't need to be on LinkedIn because that's not where you get gigs, when in fact all the people who book DJs and the creatives are on LinkedIn, and that's the area where you need to be integrating with the directors of said position or person in said radio station, because a lot of the times those folks are not on your Instagram, they're not on TikTok. More than likely they'll be on LinkedIn, or at most Twitter, if you know their Twitter account. So if you can, I think that's the best place where you can make genuine connections with professionals and create content that reflects your skills and speak to the individuals who you're trying to attract or the community you want to engage to.
Thank you. Do any of Caitlin or Samantha, do either of you want to chime in on that too?
I think you're spot on. I think also a question that we always ask whenever I'm doing profile presentations to students on their profile, I always leave with the question of how do you want to be known professionally? And who are you in your authentic self? So you may be in a more creative space, and how does your profile reflect that? And also just building your network so that you're able to just learn from the people around you too. I think with a lot, we've done so much at LinkedIn to become a place that's outside of just finding a job, but a place to network. I was even watching a LinkedIn learning video today on networking and about just giving ideas on, you may be feeling a little like, how do I network? And who am I to connect with somebody? And what am I going to bring to the table? But there's so much. I think your unique perspective, and everybody comes in with their own ideas and their own experiences, and that's valuable to everyone. So I think just be confident and go and think about who you want to be known for professionally, and start there. And really, we have lots of different resources, and we are doing a panel tomorrow on how to build that profile out. But I think what's great about being Oswego student is you have a LinkedIn learning account where you can go and take some courses and really build up that platform, your profile on that platform, to really set yourself up for success.
Awesome, thank you. I have actually a follow-up question, or I guess it wouldn't be a follow-up, but a broad question. With how big social media is now, and we see people going viral on TikTok or Twitter and landing them these amazing opportunities, do any of you, this is a kind of an open question, of how you feel how social media has kind of changed society and how it can be to an advantage when it comes to the workforce?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can kind of speak on this on my own experience as well. Building my portfolio on TikTok was huge when it came to applying for my position for Disney. Back at that time, my TikTok was all, very well produced and, very professional. And I did a lot of like reviews and stuff like that. And I made it look, I made the work show on there. And when it came time to apply for the job that I was applying for, I did actually put my TikTok handle in my resume. And my leader said to me, she was like, Sam, I looked at your resume and I saw your handle on there, and I decided to look it up. And she was like, and I saw your page, and she was like, and I knew from right then and there that you were going to be the next person on the team. And so social media is so incredibly important, when it comes to marketing yourself, and when it comes to building that following, and showing that you can do the work. And when it came time for me to have interviews and go through the whole interview process for the job that I had all this work to back up everything I was saying, and kind of, show what I had done, and show how I could connect with users and connect with like my own followers, and build a following myself. So yeah, social media has become extremely important with LinkedIn and TikTok and, any platform. And you can use that to your advantage in every way.
Yes, thank you. I know when you were speaking earlier and you talked about like helping with the Disney TikTok, that is one of my favorite parts of being on there, is seeing these companies or brands, especially when even just comments. I think that's a big thing. It's like I've seen, what is it, Scrub Daddy? It's like a scrub, for washing your dishes, and they'll comment on a TikTok and immediately has my attention. And then it's got the attention of thousands of people, and then it builds their followers. So it's just like something as simple as a witty comment or that goes along can really go a long way, and just giving you the recognition and taking you to that next step, which I think is great. I actually have another question, and this one's for Samantha. And it says, tomorrow we are running a session on rocking your LinkedIn profile, but in your opinion, how important is a person's LinkedIn profile, and what separates a good profile from a great profile?
Of course. So kind of building off of what everyone has said before, LinkedIn is just so incredibly important when it comes to networking, especially in a company like Disney, where it's so huge and there's so many places and so much opportunity. But, it's kind of hard when you're like, where do I go next? And who do I talk to next? And LinkedIn is a great opportunity to kind of get to know people who are in that part of the company that you're looking to go towards. I myself on my portfolio or on my profile for LinkedIn, I get requests from young professionals from all different sorts of companies and, colleges and in different parts of the country. And I think that sets people aside in the beginning, that, if someone's willing to reach out and try to connect and try to learn more about your career and learn about more about your path, and build that connection with you, that makes their profile so strong. And also, I was pretty much kind of new to LinkedIn last year when I first jumped onto my team, and I loved being able to share our success and share my journey and everything on my page. But also a really important part of LinkedIn is not only being able to share your journey, but being able to celebrate others and seeing what else everybody else is posting, and celebrating someone else got their dream job, and that's so incredible and so cool. And you can see their whole path in front of you. You look through their LinkedIn profile and you can see what steps they kind of took to get to where they are right now. And I just think that's really cool. It's just a really great platform, and I wish I had started using it sooner than last year, but it's been awesome being able to interact on that platform for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much. As we monitor the chat, Jackie Wallace did put in the Career Services TikTok account. So for anyone that's reading, feel free to follow, check it out. I think it's cool. Oswego is actually, I believe it's the admissions office. They have a TikTok and they did like the whole thing with Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. That was great. And I think especially just for me, it's been great with TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything, just seeing how much more involved things are with students. I actually work in the Excel office and I work on that Excel Instagram page, and it's definitely a good new experience. I think it makes it less threatening for students to think that like, oh, like, I don't know, like that I can't communicate with alumni or faculty because they're like such at a higher prestige level, but I just feel like having this connection makes it way easier. So I think that is great. So thank you all. This is also for everyone. What do you think should be on a college student's short list of things to do that they can leverage the power of social media to move their career forward?
I would say I would definitely take a look at your profile and make sure that it has certain elements and that really speaks to who you are. So your profile should not be exactly replica of your resume. It should show a little bit about who you are as a person. So your resume is your resume. You're going to have to send that out to get a job, but your profile should tell a little bit more about your story. And I also would engage with professors on campus, fellow students, program coordinators to get some recommendations on LinkedIn. So you can actually request a recommendation right on your LinkedIn profile. What that does is when recruiters are taking a look at profiles, they see a recommendation that talks about like you as an individual, what you've added to a particular program. So maybe you work on a project with a faculty member, and instead of asking for an email with a recommendation, you say, hey, can you just put it right on my profile? Recruiters are definitely looking at things like that. And I also would leverage your LinkedIn Learning account. So as an Oswego student, you have access to LinkedIn Learning, and you can go and gain and develop skills. We have over 16,000 courses, and those skills, when you complete a course, if you choose to connect your profile, you can go and put that certification right on your LinkedIn profile. So I was just actually talking to one of my client partners the other week, and this particular faculty member was talking to me about a student who needed a particular GPA to get an interview at a internship he really, really wanted. He was about a full point below that, but took certain courses and skills and courses on LinkedIn, put that on their profile, and got that interview and actually got that internship. So it's amazing how much you can recruiters are looking at skills, are looking at certifications, they're looking at everything that you're doing to be proactive and to really talk about who you are. And I think it's a great way to give a snapshot on who you are, where you want to go, what you're interested in. And just like as Samantha's telling you, give you a little bit more of your story outside of the resume. So I'd start with a couple of those, and I think you'll be in really great shape.
I'll even jump and even add to that. Like, I would also encourage students and even prospective adults to, like, think a little bit like larger than like what's out there right now, right? Like there's a whole bunch of social media networks or platforms, right? But which one would speak more to who you are as an individual, right? Like I firmly believe everybody should have a LinkedIn because to Kaylin's point, like that's like your digital resume. Like outside of the one that you send to the actual orgs, I mean, or to the companies, that's like where I feel like all of your professional accomplishments and where you are, what you have done should always be in display. But like just like how Samantha had mentioned, like for her, what worked really well was TikTok and included that link that showed more of her strengths. So like if it's TikTok, then lock in on TikTok if you know how to lock in on videos, if you're a video editor, producer, or if you're somebody who's in front of the camera. If you have a really strong voice, then maybe Twitter and showcasing your language is the specific area. Or if like locking in on reels and showing how I can use content creation to integrate like how Instagram is now, how they're switching into like it being more of a shopping act. Is like this is how I can influence people to buy a product or engage into a certain product. So it's like really locking in on which platform can really showcase your skills.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a question actually from the chat, and it is, how important is it to have a professional headshot for your profile? And does it change based on the industry that a student goes into?
I think a professional headshot's always great. But if you're going into more of a creative industry, you can feel free to show who you are. So I don't think you should feel like you have to have, if a professional headshot is not you, that's okay. I think you need to make sure though, if you're presenting yourself to your future employers, your future leaders, your future managers, your peers. So you want to be very diligent on how you're putting yourself out there in this professional network. But I think you can tailor that headshot to be speak to who you are in a professional way. So maybe it's the background that you're using, or maybe you're not in a suit, maybe you're in a different, your clothing is a little bit different depending on what industry you're going into. So I think you can showcase who you are, but I also would say this is a professional network and you want to, that's the first thing people see when they look at your profile. So I think you should be as who you are and with a professional idea in mind. And same way that you wouldn't wear something to work, you would make sure your clothes and everything and your appearance is professional for work.
So to go off of that, for each of you, do you feel that on your LinkedIn profile, like if you could name one thing that you feel really makes you stand out or makes that like represent you at the same time as being professional, what do you think that addition to your profile would be? That could be whether like you changed the picture or included, like I said, like if Samantha, you put your TikTok on your LinkedIn actually, if you chose to, or if there's anything just extra that you feel, even your description, like if there really, you wanted to have this line in because you're like, this represents me.
There's an about feature right under your profile. There's a section for about, and oftentimes it's used as to tell, like I'm a senior customer success manager and I work at LinkedIn. But at the end of the day, I think you should really think about who do you want to be known for professionally, and change up that about to be really who you want to be known for. What are your aspirations? What are your goals? So I always look at that about. I'm constantly tweaking and changing it as my interests change, as my what I think about my next step is going to be. My career path has not been linear. I've been a teacher, I've been an administrator, I worked at an ed tech platform, and now I'm here at LinkedIn, and I don't know what my next step is, but I'm really excited to explore different opportunities and learn a little bit about different parts of the company. And so your interests are constantly going to change. And so I think really taking a look at that about section to really speak to who you are, rather than just a few sentences on what you have done, maybe what you want to do as well.
I literally had the same face Samantha had because I was just thinking like, what what can I do? I mean, literally all the images that I mean, the image that was on this display is my LinkedIn. So I was thinking like, what more can I add? Maybe like headphones on top to kind of indicate. But I mean, I really like Caitlin's part about just putting it in the about. So, but you had made excellent points all across the board. No disagreements here.
I think for me, the most exciting thing, I love changing my like profile picture. And I think my the most exciting thing was finally changing my headshot to picture to one of me in front of the castle. Just because that's like a staple shot for Disney. And I just thought that that was just super exciting. And it kind of showcased, before you even get to know like what my job, description is, you know that I work for Disney and where I work. So that was a super exciting one for me. I feel like a lot of professionals in Disney have that. And I was very excited to kind of join the group and jump into that too.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question from the chat, and it is, are there social media platforms that students should avoid being on as it may have a negative effect on their career?
I personally don't think so. I think social media is what you make of it in your profile and how you interact on social media. If you are professional and if you, show yourself the way that you would want to be shown in a professional setting or in a friend setting anyway, like positive, light. I feel like there's a specific social media platform could not do you wrong. I feel like social media is the best way to showcase yourself and showcase your skills, no matter what what profile you're on or which one you have. I honestly personally do not see one that I would avoid. I will dive into everything and see what it does.
I think it's all about what you use it for. So let's just, and if you're gonna join the Rock Your Profile tomorrow, we'll dive a little bit more deeper into this, but like if something on like donuts, maybe on Facebook, you might say, I like donuts versus like, here's a cool picture of donut on Instagram, but maybe your profile on your content on LinkedIn is around a donut company or what excites you about working in the donut industry. So I think what platform, I think that's great is there's a lot of different social platforms. I think they're all utilized for similar, but also different things and different audiences. And I think just remembering what the platform is and what the content you're putting up. So certain things on LinkedIn, you may want to shift and change of you may have posted on Instagram, and maybe it's a different spin on it in LinkedIn, knowing that this is more of a professional network versus Instagram or Facebook or something like that. So I think you can be involved in all different platforms. It's just knowing the audience and the purpose for the platform, I think would give you a lot of guidance on what to actually put out there in terms of content or comments and things like that.
Awesome. Thank you. And another question from the chat is there a social platform that you wish your alma mater was on or had a stronger presence in?
It's kind of hard for me to answer this one because I'm on the board and this I understand capacity, and by saying Oswego should be more on said X or said Y or Z platform might mean more work for Margaret. But I mean, I think they do a great I think they do a great job because building social content for social is hard. Like it's hard, and to do it all like consistently, it's hard. I think for certain industries, it's a lot easier because they are already content creators. So I'm thinking about like TV, possibly even radio, where it's just a matter of just transferring what comes on the primary source to social and tailoring it to with social language. But like, if you're not that, I mean, ask yourself that question. I mean, like, how would SUNY Oswego be? Like, what would you want to see in SUNY Oswego stories that speaks to prospective students, current students, parents, and alumni? Because that's the audience, and that's a lot. Whereas, you know, with your own social, it just might be your immediate network, where it's a little bit easier, where you can show your Monday mood, or, you know, today's outfit of the day, or, you know, weekend vibes, you know? So, I mean, that's a tough one for for Oswego, but I mean, what does everybody else here think? I don't mean, what are your thoughts?
So I'm the only one that's not Oswego alumni, but I can talk from the LinkedIn perspective, and I think what's nice about LinkedIn is that everybody's posting in creation about and being from Oswego builds that brand of Oswego. So I think what's great about it, especially as students going out in the workforce, as alumni, professors, staff, every time you put something on LinkedIn that talks about whether it's content, whether it's sharing an article, whether it's referencing somebody, you're building that Oswego brand and you're helping that connection. So I know that's one thing and it's just a commonality too. My boss actually went to the same college. We connected right away. We had something to talk about right away in our first conversation. And that was all found out through that LinkedIn profile. But I think everybody who goes to my alma mater, like, it's just building that brand. And that's something that I think everybody on this call and everybody in the Oswego community, whether you've graduated, worked there, or been associated, you're all part of that brand. And I think it's wonderful because you can help each other, you can learn from each other, you can network with each other. And it just brings that connecting nature and that collaboration atmosphere. And I think that ability to help one another get to where you want to go in your career is just at the core of why we're all connected. And I think that's the best part of being part of a community.
Awesome. Thank you both. Rafaro, Margaret actually said she was the one that asked that question. So that one was for you. But we also have another one in the Q&A, and this also says, what's your opinion of companies / organizations sharing the same or very similar content on various platforms? Should an organization take time their post to spread it out, or only post certain kinds of content on a specific social outlet?
So there are some, say we make a video for Disney parks, and it can perform particularly well on TikTok, you know, and it's doing really well, but you think that could also be a reel, you know. That's when you can amplify that content and put it on another page and get more views, and just kind of spread that same message on a different platform and see if it performs the same way. There is content that, you know, for us, or in my own experience, like, I would want to be timely, and I would want to make sure that we can get that information out and support our blog as best as we possibly can. And in some cases, that's putting that information on all platforms. And in some cases, it's putting it on a platform that we think it would get more views, or get more, you know, get more talk and people more interested in it. You know, there's some content that, I mean, TikTok in itself kind of adheres to people who are 18 and up, is what kind of they say. So if we're trying to market, or say put something on there for, you know, kind of children to see as well, I don't think TikTok would be our number one choice. Maybe Instagram Reels, where a parent's on there with their child and they can see, you know, something that's on Reels, or maybe on Facebook or something like that. So different platforms can do different things, and sometimes a piece of content can be amplified and sometimes it cannot. It just kind of really depends on what it is, to be honest.
Just to make sure I understood the question, Jay Lee, I just want to, you want us to answer. Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, it is. What's your opinion of companies and organizations sharing the same or very similar content on various platforms? And so they're asking like, should the org post out or time their post differently or only post certain kinds of content on a specific like social outlet?
Got it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Samantha was 100% right on it. I mean, each platform is different. So like, and the audience, I mean, there's the general audience and then your audience within that general audience. But yeah, each platform is different. Like I know for us, specifically with Safe Horizon, I mean, we are um, a victims-based organization. So the issues that we care about or that are meaningful to us are the national news. So it's like the recent verdict with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like, so if we create content, where would that perform the most? If we're going to have a reaction piece to the news or to the verdict, or how we're going to speak to survivors, that usually does well for us on Facebook because that audience is there. But if I put, like, I can literally copy and paste the same copy and the same image in each platform, and they will all react differently, and also at the time of when it happens. Because if the verdict was announced at 11 a.m., but you're responding at 4, and it may be Facebook might spike a little bit higher because like how the algorithm is and how it sets up like your well, when it speaks to organic posts and how it comes on new people's feeds and then in the specific groups that you're in, rather than Twitter. If people are not saying, you know, if the conversation is the larger conversation is about how Omarion's dances are better than people talking about Omicron, because, you know, obviously the play on words with Omarion and Omicron. Will that gauge enough likes and retweets, and then the same thing on Instagram? So I think it's really important to be timely. I'd say just spread the content and see what works. That's what testing's for. And, you know, as people in marketing, we're always testing, always, you know, reading the data on folks as it speaks to our content.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a big thing I've noticed is a lot of platforms have analytics. So it's like you can see when the best time is that something's been posted, like how your audience is reacting and everything. We have another question, and it is, how do you stay current on social media trends, up and coming, and how to like best use it?
So kind of from my own experience, staying active on the trends is also staying active on the app or something that, or the platform that you're used to promoting. You know, when I was a social media content coordinator, my biggest platform that I worked on was Disney Parks, and that was on TikTok. So I was always on TikTok trying to see what trends were happening and what trends we could kind of relate to. And sometimes, a business like Disney can't relate to everything, but there are some that we can channel in on and maybe use a piece of news that's coming in and kind of pull off that trend. And I mean, for example, there's a popcorn bucket that just released last week on Disney property. And one of my coworkers, when we announced that we had the popcorn bucket, she used a trending sound, but she kind of made it, herself. She used like the one that's like, I'm going to say it, but it's like, I know something you don't. And then she like had the popcorn bucket. And, that's an example of using a trend and also putting in news that people don't know yet that we're going to have that popcorn bucket. And it went crazy because there's a huge following for that specific popcorn bucket. People love it. And so from that, video itself, it gained so much traction and so much excitement that when that first was like debuted in the parks, I think maybe a couple days later, there was, I think, a 7-hour wait to get it. And a lot of people found out about that specific item from that social post. So there are some times that you can use news and trends and then mesh them together and create a post that can be very successful. But, like I said before, not every trend's going to work for your company or for what you're trying to produce. But it's also super important to keep on top of that, because if you find one that does, then it can do really great things in the long run for what you're trying to promote.
I would also say that if you're newer to the social media world and don't know where to start, LinkedIn Learning, actually, I just did a quick search for social media strategy, and we have a lot of courses that are all updated within the last couple of them, like the first one's updated within the last 6 months. In order to become a LinkedIn Learning instructor, you have to be a top, you're top in your field. We go through a rigorous process to be an instructor on LinkedIn Learning. You are in the field, you're at a particular, these instructors they're not just LinkedIn Learning instructors, they are people in businesses and organizations doing the work, and they would like to do a course to teach. And so there's a lot of really great things on introduction to social media strategy, how to optimize your social media profiles, strategy and optimization for marketing. So if you're looking to dip your toe into that world and want to just get an idea about how do I get there? How do I start to combine those things, as Samantha was talking about, but I don't even know where to start other than just being a user of it. If you want to start to look at the other end of it, go ahead and dive into those courses, because I think it would give you a good idea about what the background is to that and what it takes to put on some of those posts and those following, and get some of those followings and see if you like it, because in that way that might be a future career path for you.
Those are excellent points. For myself, I kind of operate in two different worlds, right? So in one hand, I'm in the, domestic violence, sexual assault, crimes and abuse world. And then on the other hand, I'm in like the entertainment space. And I try to integrate some of the two. So the one that has worked the best so far is the infamous red flags. And in the sexual assault DV world, red flags is a huge thing. So like safety planning, hotline calling, sharing our resources that are available to victims of crime and abuse was almost easy to make, because at the time when everybody was talking about red flags, as it probably relates to like dating, school, et cetera, it's just a matter of switching that up to the most authentic way that's how we can speak about it. So I just try my best to follow the people who are the influencers in that space, and in spaces that I'm not in, because on my personal pages I don't follow my work trends, because as a DJ that it wouldn't make sense to put on the other end, on the entertainment side of things. But I know on the other end it kind of helps one another. But if I'm also if I'm having like a mental health campaign where now on the entertainment side, well, at a certain point there wasn't really this big talk about mental health, and especially with men, I can definitely integrate that and kind of like, figure out ways of being trendy, and not trendy, but like creative ways of like sharing mental health tips without coming off as like dad speaking to your son or mom speaking to the daughter.
Awesome, thank you. And that response actually opened up another question, and it is, how does each panelist balance their personal versus professional presence on the social outlets? And do you keep them separate or do they blend? And Rafaro, I know you just touched on that, but feel free to have more if you want, and Caitlin and Samantha.
It's hard. I'm not gonna lie. For me, it's hard because I'm a DJ, and I love it when people are having fun, and that is not so much in line with my 9 to 5, because I talk about crime and abuse and create advocacy campaigns for our org. So like it's different. But I mean, I just try my best to just balance the both. I mean, balance the two, because I'm still me no matter what. But I do recognize kind of like what and I think that was Caitlin's earlier point, like how I am in one platform is very different from another platform, just like how we all present ourselves in the most professional setting may not be who you are, like when you're playing video games or when you're with your family. So there's almost like a time and place for everything.
Yes, thank you.
I think maybe too, the fact that you do live, that you have these two different jobs so far, I think is just I also feel like can make you so much more approachable and just so much like there's so many who you are your interest in your career and what you do from your 9 to 5 is just one part of who you are. And I think so primarily my job focuses around LinkedIn Learning and especially the teacher in me. And I talk a lot about like, yes, professional development and all of that is absolutely needed. And a lot of my job is talking to career services and L&D departments about gaps and ways to get people where they want in their careers. But there's also a large part of LinkedIn Learning around personal development and what are you interested in? And our managers and my company, I'm in a great place where we're encouraged to go and learn something, just learn, go and have that, go learn a new skill, learn something new, because you never know when that skill can help you in your 9 to 5. So I think that idea of the personal development too is just a really important part of who you are. And I think don't discount all of those maybe hobbies that you may have or things that you may do, because I think that just makes you just so much more of a well-rounded individual, and you bring a lot to the table. So I think having those on your profiles and talking about that and creating content talks to who you are. And I think that helps you eventually gain networking and helps to create commonalities. The biggest part of networking is finding a commonality and starting from there. And I think that's like, you could meet another DJ and then all of a sudden you're opening somebody's, maybe they were interested in your career path. So I think just don't discount anything. I think go ahead and start to really develop what you want to develop, even though if it may not be in the career choice that you're majoring in or your first job. I think it's all important.
Awesome. Thank you. We have another question from the chat, and I think this one is really important. Is it detrimental if a student is not on social media by choice, and how much of a disadvantage do they have from a vocational perspective?
I think if you personally decide that you don't want to have a profile on Instagram or social media or like your own personal presence on social media, that shouldn't be detrimental. But experience in that department, whether it be like, working for a company or with a marketing department or something like that, to have some experience and like be able to have your head around that platform is. So not saying like, I don't think you need to have a personal preference or a personal presence. Like you don't need to have like, you don't need to manage your own social media and everything like that, but having experience in general is important. So I don't know if that makes like complete sense. It did in my brain, but maybe it's not right now. But like what I mean is like, if you like, say if when I worked in the marketing department, and I did their social media and I did like their Instagram posts and stuff like that, and still had that experience and didn't have my own personal profile, I don't think that would be detrimental that I didn't have something personal. But as long as I had that professional experience, I was good.
I think too, social media is becoming so ingrained in our society that you don't have to have your own profile. If you choose not to, that's totally your preference, and you don't have to feel swayed in a certain way. But I do like Samantha's idea of like, be aware of it, because it definitely is something that is very current and will continue to be current. I think especially in the next couple of years, we're seeing rapid changes in the skills needed. I think one of our statistics is that in 5 years, the skills needed in today's workforce are going to be completely different than they are going to be in the next 5 years. And so I think it's more of a larger conversation that even if you're not interested or have an opinion about it, you should still be aware, because I think that's also, it's going to help you in networking conversations, it's going to help you in your jobs. It's going to help you in just that in creating relationships. So if you don't want to be on Instagram, totally fine. But I think also knowing the power of Instagram, how people use it, can give you some perspective into it. So if you don't want to personally be on it, that's your choice. But I think also just making sure you're well read in what are the how it is changing businesses and networking and careers, and so that we're able to speak to it and have some knowledge about it.
Yeah, I think these are all real interesting points, because it's making me think now, like, because as a person who's as a consumer and a person who manages social, I'm wondering now, would my perspective on social change if I wasn't a consumer at all? And would that strengthen my approach to social from a creative standpoint, because I'm not on it and maybe I'm not influenced by others? I don't know if that would be detrimental. Because I think a lot of folks usually, myself included, I mean, I'm trying to think, like, if I'm not on social, I feel like that's like the best day ever, because like I'm away from work, I'm away from being influenced. But I honestly can't say I can't see myself not being on it. And would that strengthen? And to that point, would that now make an individual who's not on social be able to provide, if not a greater insight, while having all the points that Kaylee just made, like aware of it from a macro standpoint, and looking at it larger than being a consumer? It's an interesting point, but I don't think it'll be a disadvantage at all.
I will say though, having that presence and having that experience as an influencer before I had this position that I have now really, really, really helped. I can't say that I would be in the exact same position I am right now if I didn't start as an influencer and start like that career path. Not saying that you have to be an influencer to work in social media, but like saying that like that's how I got my experience and that's how I built my portfolio, was through social in general. And it really, really, really helped. But I wouldn't say that if you don't have it, it's like you would never be able to get to where you want to get to in the end. But it does very much so help a lot.
I would say from a networking perspective though, especially with the last 2 years and turning into a more virtual world, that it's hard to network right now. You're not at big events. You're not meeting a lot of people in person. Especially I'm more of an introverted person. So going into a big room where I don't know anybody and starting up a conversation is not my comfort zone. I'm forced into it a lot and it helps everybody grow. But I think I'm better at, I like to be able to at least be prepared for conversation. So if I know who's at the event and starting to look in their profiles and know what to talk about with them, I think it gives, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert, or how you feel about networking and how easy it is or hard it is, the virtual world and the push to this digital transformation that we're in, where we're spending a lot more time on screens and not in person. I think the networking part of it is definitely a place where you want to think through. Right now, I think one of the statistics we have is that applicants are 4 times more likely to get hired through their network. And networking is so important for it. So I just think that in terms of creating that network, and I think that even that just not that creation and that be able to meet somebody, but the most important part of networking is that upkeep of that relationship, and being able to shoot them a quick LinkedIn email and be like, hi, how's it going? Like, how's the last thing we talked about? It doesn't have to be a phone call if you don't want to and you're not comfortable with a phone call. But it makes networking a little bit easier and a little bit more efficient. And so from that perspective, something to think about if you're kind of making a decision around what platforms to join, do I want to join them, ways that maybe it could make certain things easier or more comfortable for you.
Now, going off of that question, I know, especially with social media, there's a big thing with mental health. And I know it's been a stressor for a lot of people when it comes to getting likes or retweets or views on TikTok. And I know that's can become stressful, or people, or as students, or even anyone thinking that they're not making enough or it's not doing enough. So What advice do you have for anyone that's on social media and kind of experiences that stress or strain on their mental health?
I've experienced this way more often than I probably should have. Um, for a while, when it came to my own social platform, I would get really, really upset at myself if something didn't perform the way that I wanted it to, or the way that I thought, it should have, or, I put a bunch of work into a video and it didn't do well, and I would beat myself up over it all the time. And I noticed that when I finally kind of let that go and understood that, the platform that I was working on, TikTok, you know, doesn't have, it's all over the place sometimes when it comes to posting on there. You could have thousands and thousands of followers and get 10 views on a video, and, it just be, a weird and unpredictable. And it took me a really, really long time to kind of like understand that and kind of be okay with that. Mental health is my number one and is something that's super important to me. And as a content creator, I did take a break for a little bit of time on my own social platform, just because I just didn't want to have that consume my life. And then I kind of focused more with Disney parks and focused more on building stuff with them as well. So it is a little bit of a balance when it comes to your mental health and how things perform. And just to know, my coworkers, and I say this sometimes too, are like, if something doesn't perform well, it is okay. It's totally fine. No one is getting hurt. It's just social media. It's just there, it's nothing that's going to like end your career, or nothing that's going to hurt you in the long run. If something doesn't perform well, that's okay. And you shouldn't take it upon yourself and make yourself feel bad about it. So that was my own little personal experience. I've had it happen a couple of times, and it's hard. The balance is hard, but you can get there.
Yeah, I totally empathize with Samantha, because you know I grew up with social. It's a part of my life. It's actually it is yeah it actually yeah like from literally AOL chat rooms, MySpace days coding, all the way to now. Like I've been part of that change and evolution and an engagement phase. And even as a DJ, like I'm always like, seeking, did they like the mix? Did you like the music? You know, and how do I know if they liked it? If, how many streams did I get? How many reposts? And you kind of sometimes, I know I did, especially when I was an undergrad, because I was an undergrad almost 10 years ago, and how Instagram was, it was all about the likes. That's what it was. That's how you knew people saw it and engaged with you. So without that, there was no way to show that if you're good or not. But I think at the end of the day, as my therapist tells me all the time, if you are okay, or her speaking to me, if you're okay, with how this looks, how this sounds, and how this feels, just you, then that's all that matters. Because at the end of the day, if you're over here seeking everybody's approval, then, the rule of 10 is 3 people are going to love it, 3 people are going to hate it, 3 people are going to be on the fence about it, and then somebody's just not going to respond. So like you're going to be stuck with that one, waiting for that one person to respond. That's a lot of anxiety. So I just think, just do you, and keep going forward.
I think also you have, especially as students, leverage your community and go back to your own communities too. Like sometimes it's so hard to get kind of taken away with the greater social community, but you have so many smaller, close-knit communities as being a student. I think going back to those and talking and just being really honest with how you're feeling and get involved with things on campus to get that out. I think you have resources, things like LinkedIn Learning. We have tons of wellness resources. You have counselings, and you have different people on campus. So I think when the social media world feels too big, go smaller and think about what's in your community and what you can leverage. Because especially as a student, you have all of these great resources, and sometimes you don't realize them until you leave. And I think definitely go back and And even if it's virtual, I know it's really hard right now with the virtual world, but you still have a really great tight-knit community that I think you can leverage as well.
Awesome. Thank you all. As we wrap up, this is kind of the last big question for our viewers and for people who watch later. And we'll split this up actually. So I would be great if like each of you could just give one thing, and it's one concrete activity that our listeners can accomplish in the next 24 hours to unleash their digital superpowers.
Write it down.
I'd say reach out and connect with even just 5 people by the end of the week that you wouldn't necessarily have connected with.
Man, this is a hard one. I honestly say just keep moving forward and be positive. You know, if something doesn't work out today, it can work out tomorrow. So whatever you want to put forward to, just try it. If it doesn't work, try again. Keep moving forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. This is the end of our panel. Thank you for participating. Your insight and perspectives have been so interesting and helpful. Also, don't forget to check out this week's other exciting programs. I know tomorrow, Kaylin, you're hosting the How to Rock Your Profile, as well as a session for LinkedIn Power users to help you use LinkedIn to its fullest potential. That will be in the chat as well. And this has been great. Thank you so much. This has been so helpful to me. Thank you for everyone that came and listened. And